What a situation, my friend. A fan favorite, a Super Bowl champion, a guy the Eagles picked up out of nowhere as an undrafted free agent. And this is exactly the guy who decided to throw the entire franchise under the bus on his way out the door. Reed Blankenship, the safety who wore the green uniform for 4 years, who won a ring, who was elected team captain by the locker room itself, just revealed what he truly felt about Philadelphia. And trust me, it was not pretty. In fact, it was the kind of statement you wouldn't expect to hear even from a player who left on bad terms, let alone from someone the fan base put on a pedestal. I'm going to tell you exactly what he said, why it shocked the entire fan base, how fans reacted on social media, and what this bizarre exit says about what's really going on behind the scenes at the NovaCare Complex. But before that, if you follow everything about the Philadelphia Eagles on this channel, hit that like button right now and subscribe, because this kind of locker room drama is exactly the content we bring you first, with full analysis and no fluff. Let's get into it. With the 2026 offseason in full swing and free agency shaking up the NFL market from one end to the other, the Eagles lost an important piece of their defensive scheme. Reed Blankenship, who built his career in Philadelphia starting literally from zero as a UDFA, an undrafted free agent, the guy who shows up with no guarantees, no spotlight, no security of having been selected by any of the 32 teams, went to cash in somewhere else. On March 9th, he signed a 3-year contract worth nearly $25 million with the Houston Texans. Well-earned money? Absolutely. He proved on the field that he was a real safety, a reliable starter, someone who showed up in the tough moments. The problem isn't the contract. The problem is what came after the signing. Because when Blankenships spoke with reporter Aaron Wilson about his new chapter in Houston, he did not hold back. It wasn't that diplomatic player talk you hear from guys who just switched teams, full of, "I'm grateful for my time there." It was an incredible experience. Best of luck to everyone. No. He said directly that for the first time in his entire career, he felt like someone truly wanted him, as a player and as a person. Let that sit for a second. 4 years in Philadelphia, 1 Super Bowl, a contract extension with guaranteed money, elected team captain by the locker room itself, and the guy says he never felt wanted. My friend, how do you even process that? Because when you look at his history with the Eagles, the narrative that statement tries to build simply does not hold up against the facts. The Eagles signed him undrafted in 2022 when virtually no other team was interested in him. It was Philadelphia that bet on him coming out of Middle Tennessee State, not a top-tier college football program, not a school that sends first-round picks to the NFL every year. He was a project, a raw talent that needed time and trust, and the Eagles gave him exactly that. In 2023, he became a starter. In 2024, he received an extension with guaranteed money. Not every player gets that, let alone a guy who arrived as a UDFA. And in 2025, the locker room, not the front office, not the coaching staff, but his own teammates, voted him as team captain. You don't vote someone as captain if you don't trust him, if you don't respect him, if you don't want him there. That is the highest level of recognition a locker room can give a player. And even with all of that, he left saying Houston was the first time someone truly wanted him. Remarkable. The reaction from Philadelphia fans was immediate, furious, and at times pretty creative, because the Eagles fan base treated Blankenship as one of the absolute favorites on defense. He wasn't a contested player, he wasn't a backup trying to find his footing. He was a respected starter, a warrior, someone fans followed with genuine affection. And then the guy walks out the door and says he never felt valued. That's a lot to process. Eagles fan and Twitch streamer K put into words on X exactly what everyone was thinking. He was literally a fan favorite here, and the Eagles were the team that took a chance on him as a UDFA. And this is what he says? She closed it with a LOL that says far more than any technical analysis ever could. The Eagles fan central account was even more surgical about it and laid out the complete timeline. Signed undrafted in 2022, promoted to starter in 2023, extension with guaranteed money in 2024, elected captain by the locker room in 2025. Someone who isn't wanted doesn't get that treatment. Full stop. Victor Williams from the Philly Pod summed up the city's reaction in 2 words. Are we dead ass? Which in Philadelphia means exactly the same as, are you seriously coming at me with this? And fan Uncle Jut went straight to the point. The man was voted captain of a Super Bowl championship team. That's what not being wanted looks like? Some people tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, like Jake Rabati from Draft Day Trade, who argued that maybe Blankenship was talking more about his difficult years before the Eagles than about Philadelphia itself. About that whole grueling journey of a guy who came out of Middle Tennessee State without getting drafted, who had to prove his worth from scratch. And there may be some truth to that. The life of a UDFA is not easy. You show up to training camp knowing most of the guys at your position have more job security than you do. It's psychologically draining. But, and this but matters, the way he said it, for the first time in my entire career, didn't leave much room for a generous interpretation. If he had meant to talk about his past before the Eagles, he would have said so. He didn't. And there's one more detail that adds an extra and very uncomfortable layer to this story. Blankenship did not leave Philadelphia on a high note. In his final game in a green uniform, the 23-19 home loss to the San Francisco 49ers in the wild card round, he simply did not deliver. It was a flat performance, full of positioning errors, and the worst moment came on a trick play that resulted in a touchdown. Wide receiver Jawan Jennings threw the ball to running back Christian McCaffrey, and Blankenship was left standing, with no reaction. That is not the image you want burned into the memory of a fan base that always had your back. And according to the report, that performance likely cost him several $1 million on the free agency market before he closed the deal with Houston. So here is the full picture, my friend. A player who grew professionally in Philadelphia, who was carried on the shoulders of the fan base, who won the most coveted trophy in American football wearing an Eagles uniform, walked out the door with nearly $25 million in his pocket, and still decided to send a message to the franchise that made all of it possible. From a purely logical standpoint, it doesn't add up. But emotions are rarely logical, and locker room dynamics are rarely simple, because, and it's important to be honest here, those of us on the outside will never know the full story. There may have been conversations with the front office that didn't go well. There may have been day-to-day situations that never made it to the press. There may be a feeling that built up over 4 years, something that no contract or captain vote can fully make up for. Human beings are complicated, and professional athletes go through pressures that most of us will never truly understand. Maybe Blankenship felt real things that simply don't show up in stats or headlines. But from the outside, what fans see is a guy who was given everything. Opportunity, an extension, a captaincy, a ring, and left saying he wasn't wanted. And that, for a passionate fan base like Philadelphia's, is hard to swallow. Very hard. The question that remains is, will Philadelphia see this as a betrayal? Or will they understand that Blankenship has the right to speak his truth? Will this statement tarnish a 4-year legacy of solid performances? Or will fans be able to separate what he did on the field from what he said on the way out? And most importantly, will this situation change anything about the way the Eagles manage their relationships with players going forward, especially those who come up the hard way, without the glamour of being a draft pick? Drop your opinion in the comments below. Do you think Blankenship was right to say what he said, or was he ungrateful to a franchise that believed in him from the very beginning? This is exactly the kind of debate that makes the NFL the most fascinating sport in the world, because it goes way beyond the field. If you enjoyed this content, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell, because every time a bomb like this drops in the Eagles world, we are the first to bring you the full breakdown, unfiltered, and no fluff. Until next time, my friend, fly Eagles fly.